We'll call meeting to order. Roll call.
Coleman.
Yes.
Stanky.
Here.
Tom.
Yes.
Mayor Westergaard.
Yes.
Boltman. Here. Reese.
Here. Anyone here in public forum? We'll move on to consent agenda. Any additions, corrections?
No.
Any motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call.
All right, Mulder.
Yes.
Boltman.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Stanky.
Yes.
Tom.
Okay, we'll open a public hearing on the request from Stuart and Jennifer Bone to change the zoning. Has there been any input?
No.
Close the meeting, public meeting then.
Now, I guess I would tell you this, I do want to tell you that the planning and zoning have met, and they do recommend this proposed rezoning of the Bones property, but what they want to look at is actually enlarging the commercial area out there on the highway. So from the north right-of-way line of the highway, north 200 feet generally, is a commercial district out there. And they would look to expand that to potentially say 400 or 500 feet. Some common designation, but they've had to do this now twice. You had to rezone some property for Dollar General, and then also looking at this for Bones. So they would look at expanding that to include much more property, so they thought this was very consistent with what they were proposing.
So I just have a question about that. So let's just look at Dollar General. Is that whole property of theirs now zoned commercial?
It is, because we actually had to do something very similar that, say they had 200 feet in there before they bought 300 feet of property, so they rezoned the next 100 feet to be commercial.
And so the other businesses along there, are they now all in commercial? As far as their building site?
They, again, if there's commercial zone there, it's just zoned as 200 feet back. So most likely that they're largely included in that, but if they're not, they're just a non-conforming use in the neighborhood district.
So they're still taxed as a commercial as far as their lots?
Now we can close the public hearing. Resolution 1832 is approving that request. Heard that motion? Roll call.
Boltman.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Moller.
Yes.
Stanky.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Stuart, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry you had to kind of go one way or the other.
The next one would be a building permit.
Oh yeah, we need to building permit. You have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Stanky.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Boltman.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Moller.
Yes.
Okay, now the lagoon project. This is the night.
I think, again, Mayor, members of the council, first, I mentioned earlier, bids are valid for a period of 60 days, which will expire on the 10th of June. After that, Drummond Hicks can withdraw their bid, so we can't bind them. So tonight's night, we probably should either award the contract or reject. If you reject, you've got several options. If you award the contract, we talked a month ago about a number of cost-saving options. We still will look to incorporate those, but to maintain the integrity of the bidding process, the awarded contract should be on the bid received, and we'll add those reduction items by change order. We've talked about those, so you'll be seeing those come forward in a series of change orders as we work out the details on that. The biggest thing is that since we last met, the city did receive its disadvantaged community status, which means that we can extend the term of the loan to up to 30 years at 2%. That's subject to a determination that the life of the facility is 30 years or more. So when Scott sent the letter today, we went through the worksheet and calculated the life of 33.35 years, which means that we can qualify for a 30-year loan. Scott can speak a little bit to the debt service on it, but I think that might be helpful before the council deliberates, and then depending where we go, we'll talk about what the various options are. So, Scott,
Just that as we look at those options for finance, and we've looked at these before, but I want to call your attention that they start on page 15. And what I really want to show you just right now is the top one there, review of original plans, where it's showing borrowing that 4.65 million, 20 years at 2%. You see what the annual sewer payment is. So that's the debt service payment each year of about $293,000. And then we would flip a couple pages back. I'll show you the impact about what happens when you go to 30-year debt schedule. And that's on page 17, and this would be option 6 at the top of the page, where now it's issuing $6.7 million over that 30 years, again at 2%, with the annual payments of approximately $305,000. So pretty close to where we had looked at to start with. The other thing I want to call your attention to is this one that I had on your desk tonight. I also asked our advisor to run a scenario based on lowering the loan amount from 6.7 to $6.4 million. If we were looking at some potential cost savings, it likely would be around $300,000. And so I just wanted to show you what the annual payments would be there. So it's $293,000, which is actually the same as what our annual payment was proposed to be under the original scenario. Of course, it pays for 10 years long. But then this also shows what the proposed rate increases would be, and this shows it for 4 years at 9.5% over the next 4 years. I asked them also for these same numbers for what it would be over the next 3 years, and then that is 12.5% over the next 3 years. So it would be staying with the same plan as what we would have in place right now. From kind of the cash flow perspective.
Back up a little bit. If the percentage is, what'd you say, 12%?
12.5 for the next 3 years. This shows 9.5 for the next 4 years.
On option 6?
Yes.
On the paper
That I just gave you tonight.
Oh, because you're gonna reduce the loan amount. But we
If that
haven't even
reduces.
approved these adjustments yet,
True,
so.
yeah. I guess it's more FYI. I just wanted you to know what the impact would be.
All right.
That's for 30 years.
That's 30 years.
one thing to remember about a balloon versus a mechanical plant, there's a lot less things to wear out. There's the tankage, and most of the cost is in fixed items. So most balloons will go 30+ years with minimal maintenance costs. So it's not like we're going to go underwater. If we have a mechanical plant, typically we wouldn't want to go beyond 20 years because 20 years are going to be replacing a lot of stuff. The dune facility, we replace a lot of mechanical things with a lot of concrete or dirt that has a lifespan that's much longer. So that's why you have, in order to get the 30-year term, you have to have a predominantly a dune facility. You cannot do it with a mechanical concrete. You're going to be capable of like 22 or 21.5 years. So the DNR recognizes that the lagoon has a much longer life without requiring a lot of repair and maintenance. It's different than the mechanical plant we have now, where 20 years out you see a lot of wear and tear on the equipment. The tankage and moving parts, there's a lot fewer things moving in the lagoon. And the things that do move are in the water. That's like blowers and those things are not in the water, so they're not, they're very different than the kind of things we see in mechanical.
So saving this $300,000, is that about 5%? Is that what we're looking at?
That's about, yeah.
About 5%?
That's correct.
Yeah, so we're thinking about changing the whole plan for a 5% reduction. Now, I'm just creating some thought here. You're looking at changing the plan for 5%. So is it worth it as a community to stay with the original plan, just like we always set up with the exact same amount of money? The plan that we all thought was really good. What does this do to our contractor? Oh, we come back, okay, as a change order. So who determines the exact cost of that? How would we know the exact cost? It could be less, or it could be more. I don't know. I'm just.
We have information, Grumman Hicks provided us some framework information that we had at the discussion on May 7th. So in a way, we've kind of locked in a lot of those changes. The one thing we don't really have a change, if you decide you want to take the sewer and run it from the treatment plant down to the lift station on the highway and then go straight north, or kind of northeasterly. There, we've estimated the cost based on the unit prices they've given us. And those are kind of things, Ken, that we don't really even, we can have that conversation later on if you want to on a change-by-change basis. Because we're not really tonight locking in anything other than our renewal of the contract. So the items that we discussed on May 7th, we can come back and discuss, okay, do we want to change the building? Do we want to eliminate, we talked about pretty much eliminate the pollution insurance for $11,000. The more radical things, are we going to delete the north trunk sewer, are we going to realign the trunk sewer? Those are not on the critical path. In other words, if you look at how long it takes to build the lagoon itself is the one that needs to get going. The sewers are not on the critical path. So we can have that conversation down the road. We can get specific pricing, and then the council can decide that's worth it or not worth it.
So, for us to qualify or say, do we have to give them a hard number tomorrow if we vote to award the contract? Get our financing in order? How long do we have to say we want to buy the 6.7 or the 6.3? How soon do we have to make that determination? Because that will determine how quick we make our changes, if we make changes.
We'll want to establish what our maximum amount of loan money would be relatively quickly because we need to start accessing those loans.
So if we were to say we want the 6.7 and we use the 6.3, do we still have to borrow the 6.7 or?
The way the SRF loan program works, it's different than typical going out and selling bonds, where they give you that amount of money. What you do is you enter into a loan agreement with IFA, and it's a drawdown loan, so you only use the amount of money that you need. And then when you're done with the project, then they recalculate the debt service schedule based on the amount of money that you use. So you always want to be a little bit on the high side.
Okay.
Because that way you've got the borrowing authority, and if you want to go down, you can. So for example, if you decide to award a contract, you probably move forward with the not to exceed of, say, $6.7 million. And then any money you decide to save as you go through the project, you simply don't borrow that. You don't pay any interest on the money you haven't borrowed.
Okay. That was one of the concerns.
Yeah, no, there's no, the only thing that you pay is there's 1/4 of a point on the, you pay interest on the loan origination fee, which is 1/4 of a point, and it's at 2%. So if you can imagine that if you over borrowed by, let's say $300,000, so in theory, $750 of that is money you won't get back. That's all the price you
The
pay.
loan origination fee.
Yeah.
So we don't have to then decide on which of these options tonight. We only need to decide on the total amount.
That is,
Is that correct?
We need to, the action tonight is to award the contract.
Or the contract or rebid, whatever.
That's
Okay.
right. And then, as we begin to, we'll work with the contractor. He may have other ideas, we may have other ideas, we'll work our way through that. We kind of know what we talked about a month ago. That sort of sets the framework. But that way, you'll come back with a series of hard decisions by change order, not it's about this or about that. you can make that decision on a case-by-case basis.
So what, as council needs to decide tonight then is that if we decide to accept the bid or reject the bid or rebid it, that needs to be made tonight, right?
I would recommend that, yes.
Okay.
With the amount, total amount, the bid was 6 million, with the total amount being 6.7.
Right. But then we can always bet, unless we decide not to, at least we're at that bid. My personal opinion is that we only got 2 contractors that bid the project. And to rebid the project, I really don't think we're gonna get any more, especially at this time of the year. And I feel that we should probably, I'm speaking on myself, and I welcome anybody to say that we should accept the bid, and then we can piecework it as we, okay, should we cut this or shouldn't we?
Are you making a motion?
Well, I'm making a motion, and I just want to make sure everybody gets their say on this, because we're spending some good amount of money here. And I want to I'm comfortable with the decision that we're not going to get a better bid if we rebid the whole works.
Right.
I really believe that, because it could go the other direction
Right.
just as quick. So I guess I'm making a motion that we accept the,
If you do, the action you have would be a motion to adopt the resolution awarding contract to Grundon Hicks in the amount of $6 million based on the bid received on April 11th, 2018.
I'll do what he said.
And this is interesting, at least still in the way that it's presented on the agenda and stuff, because there was 2 resolutions there. So I'm just clarifying that the motion for the resolution is the resolution awarding contract for the wastewater treatment plant improvement project. And that's the one that does award a $6 million contract to Grundon Hicks.
Right.
And then then our next is determine how we want to finance that. And does that decision have to be made tonight, or what?
It does not. And what I'll do now is I will start working with our bond counsel to get the process started to establish that. And he's gonna ask for what is the maximum amount of money that we would want to borrow, because you can't exceed that maximum, but you can always be lower. So,
More than likely, what will happen is that if you've not had a hearing on the issuance yet.
we've not had a hearing.
So at the next meeting, you'll have a resolution that will set a public hearing to issue not more than $6.7 million of sewer revenue debt. And that public hearing would be at your July, if you get it published in time, your July 2nd meeting, unless you move that some other date. And then after that, then you can go forward with that process. And what we'll do with the contractor is we'll get the contracts and bonds back, which we didn't do because we didn't know what you were gonna do. So at your meeting 2 weeks from now, you'll have another resolution that will be approving the contract and bond. That's a formality motion, because we don't have the contract and bonds. And I think, given the speed at which wastewater treatment plant projects move, we didn't need to jump the shark and approve a contingent tonight. And then what we'll do is we'll notify the contractor of kind of where we're thinking about, to get them going on critical path items. And then the non-critical path items, we'll let them know, these are the things we're looking at. And so, for example, they need to get equipment ordered. That isn't gonna change. Those are so we're looking at what is it that they need to get going, get out there and get the dirt work on the lagoon going, get out there and get their equipment ordered, and get their shop drawings processed. Those are the critical path items. None of those are really affected by what we're talking about. So that way we can run, we'll be really running on 3 parallel paths. We'll be running on the financing path, the contractor will get going on the critical path items, and then we can talk about the individual changes.
So, so once we set up our financing, we can make that determination whether we still want to do it a 25-year or a 30-year, you know, depends about how the dollars are cents, or do you have to come in there and say we want to borrow it for 30 years?
For you, I guess I don't know.
That decision will be made at the time you enter into the loan agreement, which my guess will be probably in August sometime.
Okay.
So it's not now, but it's not at the end of the project, because there'll be a period of time now. IFA would probably let you shorten that up, they won't let you extend it. So in other words, if you say, I want a 25-year loan, you can't come back and get a 30. If you say 30, they have been pretty flexible and say, okay, I want to go to 25 or 27, because you qualify for the 30. But I would say you want to kind of lock the term in that it'll probably be sometime when you close that loan, which assuming you have the hearing in July, will probably, it's usually about 40 days later, something like that, so mid-August-ish timeframe.
Something, Scott, I'd like to see you perform an analysis on the difference between a 25-year and a 30-year. What the cost would be for, first of all, interest, okay, over that 5-year period. And then what our rate increase would be over the difference between a 30-year loan and a 5-year loan. What are the actual hard numbers that we could present, or discuss, I guess is the right way to say it.
I'll present it, a lot of that stuff's in here.
Okay, but,
Yeah.
but the difference, so there's hard numbers, you know, a 2% loan, what's the difference between a 5-year loan and a 30-year loan?
Sure.
On interest rate, so I guess that's the big picture. If there's enough savings for 25, then we'd probably take the 25, but if it's not, then it makes sense to do 30, especially at 2 year, at 2%, so.
And you have the choice to pick any number of years.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got clients who pick 26 or 27.
well, if we take anything less, it's really gonna shoot our numbers up for our residents, and we wanna kind of stay in the same kind of a ballpark. I think it's important, because like I said, we presented this for a year, at least a year, I would say, that we were going to be at the 4.6, you know, here we are. So that's why we got another package to sell, is what we gotta do to the public, to make sure it's done right, and we're getting the most bang for our dollar, okay? That's my opinion on it.
We have
That's
a
a
motion on the floor.
That's a pretty simple calculation to get that information for.
Bill's got something I think you might want to introduce here.
Bob, as an engineering design, which one do you recommend?
What do you mean, is it engineering?
On the original
Or the changes,
design or this new one?
yeah, the changes.
What's gonna be the best?
Well,
But we're not doing that tonight.
Right, but I mean,
No.
it's coming into
we're
play,
not really changing the lagoon, the basics of the lagoon.
how it gets there.
I mean, so we're just changing the piping of how you get there, that's the biggest thing. You know, in a way, I kinda like, there's a part of that, you know, Highway 175 one I like. If the numbers work out, bring it down to the station there, use the Dollar General.
I like that option simply because if you're digging 30 feet deep on the other option and something goes wrong with the pipe, that's a big undertaking in itself.
But if you have a failure,
And
you're
that's
gonna
the-
have it all at one place.
Yeah, and that's the one option that I say we have the least hard numbers on. What we took is what Grumman Hicks had given us to piece that together. I suspicion that we may be actually better off because, you know, we actually have a lift station there now, and so there were some control and power issues that they were putting money in when we were gonna move it to the treatment plant, when the treatment plant was gonna otherwise be abandoned, so they put some money in for that, which they wouldn't necessarily need to put as much money in if we're going to an existing lift station. So that'll take a little while to piece together, but I think the others, you know, getting rid of the pollution insurance and some of those kind of things don't really affect much of anything. So I think that the sewer is the big issue, and I think what we need to do is get that priced up. What we'll do is we'll do a preliminary design, and get that to Grumman Hicks, and then if the numbers look like they're reasonable, we can have that conversation and then finalize that, so,
And we'll do this as a change order.
that's correct.
Okay.
And my guess is, Ken, we'll probably have a couple of them. We'll probably take some of the things like the pollution insurance and some of those that were really not very controversial. We may just do those in one to get it out of the way in the next couple of council meetings. And then we probably would do the bigger one as a separate one. We're just gonna pin a little bit.
After we get more information.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the largest money the city's ever gonna spend. Does anybody have any more input? Terry, you seconded it, correct?
No.
And
Okay, all right. Let's do the roll call.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mulder,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Boltman,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
I'd like to change our mind now.
You say, and there'll be an item, agenda item, probably you'll have two items next meeting. One to start the financing, one to approve the contract and bond, and then the next step after that is we'll have, probably have a pre-construction conference sometime end of June, early July.
Thanks, Bob, for your patience.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We need to work our way through these things.
Yes, and for coming to all of the meetings and trying to help us through this process. And this
Bringing
is
Todd
a,
along, we like that.
this is a big project for this community, but I do know from a little bit of input that I've gotten is, a lot of communities are facing this, with the new requirements for,
Well, I would tell you this, that if you look at what's coming down the road to communities, you're out in front of it. Pricing is gonna be worse down the road, a year or so from now. Because I know that there's probably 25 or 30 lagoon projects in the state in the next year, and not 25 or 30 lagoon contractors. So, this may not be ideal, but I would say that you're out of, somebody who's a year behind you is probably maybe even in worse shape.
just remember when Tammy and I were at that training session, one of the things one of the speakers asked, how many of you are doing multi-million-dollar sewer projects this year? So we're a
It's a
lot
whole
of,
lot.
yeah.
Well, just to give you an idea, we have somebody in our office who looks for when the permits come out. And so they come out once a week. And there's usually 4 to 6 permits a week that are coming out. And probably somewhere, I would guess, maybe a third of those, or probably if you look at it, maybe somewhere between 1 and 1.5 community permits a week require a major upgrade. So you're talking about maybe 75 communities a year that are getting hit with it. There were 4 that came out today, of which 2 of them have major upgrades. So it's, the DNR sat on this forever, and then they decided after sitting on it and letting all the permits expire for years and years, I think somebody visited with the Department of Transportation and decided that the driver's license renewal thing makes a lot of sense. So they embarked on this 5-year program to issue permits every week for 5 years, so that at the end of the 5-year cycle, they have a nice, smooth, balanced workload. The same way that DOT looks at driver's license renewals, and the same number all the time. That's never been the philosophy of the DNR, but that's what they're doing, and so that's why it's just a constant stream coming out. So depending on where we are 2 weeks from now, we may or may not need to do that. It's just a pro forma thing. We may be back at the meeting following that. If there's any substantive things, we'll be back. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, we're gonna consider pay estimate number 1 for Legacy. Bill, you're okay with it yet?
You have to do a great job.
Are they on schedule pretty much, Bill?
I didn't hear you, Whitey.
Are they pretty much on schedule?
Oh, yeah.
Or what they want?
Yeah. They're doing the hardest line first.
And what did they say when the completion date was on?
November.
We have a motion to approve the pay estimate. Second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Reese,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Mulder,
Yes.
Boltman,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Okay, Scott's gonna give a little recap on the splash pad.
We'll talk a little bit about financing of it, but I guess I'm just interested in any of your observations about the splash pad, any likes or dislikes, or where we're at.
Well, I've got a bird's eye view, and I'm here to tell you, it's the biggest shit in town. Everybody's loving it.
People come up all the time and say it's the best thing we've ever done.
Memorial Weekend was like a carnival weekend.
It was
So, you know, when you have that come into town, there has to be extra money being spent at your businesses, you know, and extra utilities are being used, just, it has to be financially beneficial for this company.
You want to take a look at page 28, and just kind of comparing the estimated cost versus what the actual was. And it's pretty good that the actual is anticipated to come in a couple $1,000s less than what the estimate was. You can see the amounts that we have paid, so we still owe $69,000. We do have all that money in the bank, and then we're able to pay all the bills as they come in. Just a couple things on that. Just the difference in the splash pad itself was actually that they did not do the seating where they had proposed. Sidewalks, their estimate, we had the splash pad contract to do the sidewalks also, so their cost was a little bit less than what the estimate was. Benches are really in line, and the shade, we had them install that shade, so they did charge us $650 for installation. I think that ended up being money well spent. Trash cans, donor board. I would tell you that Kathy Everett, our hometown pride coach, is the one who made that donor board, and she owns a signing company and did a terrific job. So that looks pretty good. The rules board, that's really the same design as the information kiosks around town. So those all look good too. The security cameras, that's one thing that is not done yet. So.
Didn't Jeremy bring you the box today? He's talked to you about getting the box.
I didn't see him.
He told me he was gonna talk to you today, but I suggested tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't see him.
He's gonna bring you that box like we did the.
Yep.
And then you guys could do it. I'm sure that'll start tomorrow.
So the security cameras, and they can go up and they'll start recording anytime. Okay, but we do not have an internet connection down there yet. You know, and as soon as we get internet connection, and then we'll be providing Wi-Fi to the splash pad and the park area. As soon as we get that, then we'll also be able to see the splash pad cameras then on page big screen up here in the office.
Somebody did drive through the sod before we got that to fix.
You see what we did for sod. We ended up with, I ordered about twice as much as what I had originally estimated, and it was still not enough. See the pavers, but we did have them install the pavers. So, and that ended up being just about $1,000 for them to install. Miscellaneous for a
Just a
flat.
FYI about these pavers, it just seems to me like the pavers that we originally had put in over at the pier are engraved a little deeper, or maybe it's black etched, because these newer ones don't seem to me to be so deep, and some of them already look to me like they're not gonna hold up. They're harder to read, I think. Just an FYI.
This is a different vendor than what did the original Stone Pier. It is a different.
Something to think at, or look at it.
And you look at the city of Lakeview's in kind, that we did provide dirt, an estimate about, it was about 40 truckloads, we estimated 350 yards. We did water and sewer taps, connecting the meter pit. Now Hancock donated that manhole to us, so that was a nice donation there. The city guys provided and installed the security light and inlaid so. So then you can also see then the revenues at the bottom, and I guess what I would point out to you there is a total of $159,972, of that $10,000 in kind. So take that $149,972 and you can compare it against what the anticipated actual costs are, $147,800. So we're still a couple $1,000 to the good. And Connie will tell you, I think I got a little bit of a mathematical error in there, but we're still a couple $1,000 to the good. And Hometown Pride has discussed this a little bit about what it is that we would like to do with that, the little bit of money that's to the good. And
Well, it would seem to me that you know, you might have things pop up that we might wanna change, I mean, it's pretty new, and I just think, or maybe little things you might wanna add, it just seems to me, my belief is that I know this is on city-owned property, so that makes it a little bit different. I thought we had all agreed on any future fundraising for projects is gonna go through the foundation.
From here on out, that's,
Right.
yeah, this
So
wasn't,
this one didn't, or I
Right.
mean, it started before. But it seems to me that the foundation is an easier place to have it earmarked than, I mean, quite frankly, there's been some kind of problems with it dealing with city funds, trying to keep track of it.
but we're very good. And it's the same thing with, so we were going through like some examples of other projects that we've done. And with, in this case, it's Pier 25. We've had a maintenance, we've had, I guess, just an earmarked fund for Pier 25, and actually there's still $1,700 in it, and it's in the city's fund, and it's earmarked for that use, and it hasn't been used for years, but it is there.
Don't you think it'd be easier just to have this stuff in the foundation?
I'm not against the idea at all.
And then when you have you know, the city says, well, hey, we need $5,000 to fix this, then they say, well, we have $2,500 here, and they give them the money. It just seems to me like an easier way than trying to go through all these city funds. And, because everything goes through that general fund.
It might be.
Well, not in this case, Vicki, everything's in a capital, where it's in a line item.
It might be
You know, it's in and out in that line item.
It might be easier for future people if they want to donate a grant to something for the splash pad.
Like I say, I'm not against the idea. We
Foundation.
can
I don't,
certainly do it.
you know,
It'll clean up your buckles a little bit.
It will. And,
Now-
and if they say I gave $5,000 to the splash pad, $5,000 to the splash pad, and then, well, it's sitting in earmarked in the city funds, I just think I think the foundation will encourage people to donate. I do.
And I really don't care. I guess I do want to point out to you, and we did this on purpose, that, you know, the foundation and the city, there is no formal tie between them. You know, and there'd be earmarked funds in the foundation for that, and they'd be earmarked for a purpose. Okay, just know that there is no legal tie between the two. And
Nor should there be.
again, just the notion that, you know, we said the money would go there and be for that use, and we have absolutely no concern that it would ever be for that use. I'm just saying there's no legal tie to assure that it happens.
And Hometown Pride is going to visit with the city council and the city properties.
And the issues come up that amongst the Hometown Pride people, whether they would look at the foundation or having a capital fund within the city or whatever. I think they wanted to have a little discussion on that. And I guess I would say that we got a little time to do that too. Before we would ever turn over the remainder of the balance, we just want to make sure all the bills. And, you know, it would probably be end of July before we'd be looking at doing that.
You're with Hometown Pride? Do you have any comment?
Just that when I reconciled everything, there was issues with money being in Farmers, money being in Iowa State. It took like 2 weeks to reconcile everything. There were just a lot of questions. And I think that sending it to the foundation keeps it cleaner.
Well, there's just so
It's
many
just
funds
easier.
coming into the city, you know, you've got utilities, I mean, there's just so many funds coming into the city.
And it does make it really easy. You know, $5,000 for a shade, we decide we need another shade. If Hometown Pride decides they need another shade, and someone wants to give something, they give it to the foundation. It can be for the splash pad. It's just very easy.
Yeah,
I guess I
think,
agree, yeah, I am okay with that.
I think hopefully as the foundation becomes more visible to people. I just visited with someone the other day that said they had given some money to some things, and he said, I have a new accountant, and he was excited that now we have this foundation. You know, it's just going to make things easier to donate estates and that type of thing. So I just think as we the community becomes more familiar with it, it's just gonna be an easier transition for the funds.
I agree. Well, and the foundation is for community betterment, that's what it's there for.
Right, and they can't earmark it. I mean, they
Oh,
don't
definitely.
give it to the foundation. If I give $5,000 to the foundation, I can say, gee, I want it used for this.
Right.
Or I don't care what it's used for, use it to your, I mean, the donor is able to, yeah, where I understand the legal part of that.
That's correct.
There's a
And anything.
Tax benefit, right?
There's a, yes.
And
there's a
so
huge
they don't
share.
have to determine where it goes, as long as it goes into that foundation, it's tax deductible, right?
Right, yes.
My question would be is, so if the hometown pride has a discussion on this and we decide to goes to their, I mean, is that gonna be all right? Are you guys gonna let us do that, or how? I mean, there's no use of this hometown pride talking about it if you guys are gonna change your mind.
I think the council shouldn't have nothing to do with it myself. I mean, if there's a project that goes on that, and we might approach you and say, would you want to be donating towards it, whether you say yes or no, it's up to you. But I don't, to determine how you spend the money, I don't think the council needs to be involved with it.
No, but he's talking about putting the funds either in the city
The
coffers or in the foundation coffers. Is what you're talking about,
Right,
right?
when we have our next meeting, we'll discuss this, and if we decide to put it in the foundation, I mean, that's gonna be all right with you guys?
It's donated money, it's not the city's money.
Exactly.
It really belongs to the people that donated it.
And I think
There's
that-
excess, so.
I think it curbs you if you put it in the general fund, people think, I gave this much money, well, it's in the city's hands. Well, is the city really spending it, or aren't they spending? I mean, I'm not saying that.
Right.
People think that, so I mean,
I agree with you.
That's the
this way, it's in the foundation, they know it's earmarked for community work.
And the foundation has to report through the IRS, just like the city and everybody else.
I think the city should be, work together, but I still think it's.
Yes?
Martha, you have a question?
Numbers we
I do have,
Go ahead.
how is public accountability handled in this situation? The city has to have an audit required, is it every year?
We have an exam done every year. It's not a full financial
But you
audit.
don't have a full audit? And then, so if money from donors then go to the foundation, is the foundation required to have an audit? Is there the same public accountability from the foundation as there would be required from the city?
We don't have enough yet to have an audit.
No, but it has to be.
We will eventually, yeah.
It has to be established, I think
Well, the
thing that
foundation is
required-
established
Yeah.
according to the IRS guidelines that they have for nonprofit, foundations. And an attorney set all that up, and we got approval for the IRS.
From
I
the
don't know if that
IRS.
answers your question.
No, I'm talking about accountability to the people in Lakeview.
What was the question, how they what?
Are they, to the people in Lakeview, are they able to access information from the foundation the same way that you get access from the city?
What kind of
And
information?
financial information?
Here's accountability of it right here, this would be public.
No, but I'm talking about policy-wise.
Oh, policy-wise? Yes, we have bylaws and all that the city can see, or that,
But you're not a governmental entity.
No,
like the
we're not a government entity.
Like the city of Lakeview.
No, we are not.
I know, it's just something to think about, and your accountability to the public, and how much is required of the city versus a foundation.
Well, I disagree, I guess, to some point, because the people that donate money to the foundation, I mean, your taxes aren't going there. Not everyone is contributing to the foundation. People that donate money specifically to the foundation. It's not it's not that you're gonna get, that everybody in town's gonna get a spreadsheet.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, I guess, and I'm not sure that I have the right answer either, but it would seem like, there certainly is public filings, and they're largely done through tax filings. So their tax return, understanding they're not even big enough to file a tax return, I don't know that
No,
they're
it
mandated to
just
do
wasn't
that,
hard.
but.
But laying foundation, the framework of the foundation and public policy, and how that's going to be handled.
That's all covered through the IRS and the requirements of how you form a foundation and how you report your money coming in and going out. I mean, that's all, just like any entity that's through the IRS.
This project didn't get into the foundation because this was done before the foundation was
Right.
formed. So this really isn't, it's kind of,
And I guess just to understand, when it comes down to the end and there's some money to be transferred out, we'll ask the city to approve the expenditure of that money, because that's actually an expenditure paying to the foundation.
Whatever happens, it's gonna come back to the council one way or the other.
The other thing I wanted to make sure to discuss with you, I'm still on page 28, and I'm looking at the bottom line there, and that's water usage. Okay, that, this is the only reading that we have on it, but we took a reading after the first 4 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday of Memorial Day. You see the usage there, it's 122,000 gallons. I just want to have that discussion about how we account for water usage. And I'll give the example of the campground. You know, we have a meter there, we keep track, of course, of electric and water used down there, okay? But in that case, the water is billed to the water utility, and then the revenues go to the water utility. Then in and out, you know, there's no net effect then on the water utility. And really what it does is allows us to account for water usage. But in the big picture, there's no new revenue that comes in because of it. And I would like to have this set up the same way for the splash pad. Because there are alternatives. If you said, this by rights, this ought to be a general fund expense out of the park, we could build the general fund for water. Okay, but it'd be likely at a retail rate.
But campground,
We have not, you know, the water department, or the water utility pays for the water.
it should be treated the same way. So in other words, it never shows up as a campground expense.
Well, it does, actually, it shows up as an expense and it shows up as a revenue. So it's always offset.
So, yeah, zeros it out.
So like the water then, what is there, non-mag shut up at 8 o'clock and like 11 o'clock at 8?
Yeah, so the hours of the splash pad, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then it only runs when the kids go hit that middle button. And then it will run for 4 minutes. And then they gotta run back and hit the button. They have figured that out so that it basically runs all the time if there's people down there, but
So I mean, does it automatically come on at 11?
no,
It's on all the time?
No, it's not, it's, at 11 a.m. it would function if you hit the button.
Okay, but it wouldn't before that?
It wouldn't.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So back up a little bit on this revenue thing. So it's counted as let's talk about the campground. It's counted as a campground expense.
No, it's not, it's counted as a water utility expense and a water utility revenue.
So it isn't shown as a campground expense.
What do you suggest? What would be the easiest bookkeeping to do?
Just know that we certainly want to keep track of the water usage. You know, we very much need to know how much water's been used. And unless you would desire to have one fund actually pay for it into the water fund, unless you would like for that to happen, this is a good way to do it. And it's worked for us on other public facilities for a long time.
Well, it seems to me that you wouldn't do them different. You would either do both of them one way or both of them the other.
And you know, we hear this when annually we'll go through a report at the campground and we'll show you all the expenses and everything. And somebody will say, and it'll be correct, but you don't show utility usage, which is true. You don't show utility usage. If everybody's okay with that, I'm gonna keep it.
So does anybody here think we ought to be showing that at the campground?
Whatever works. That's for bookkeeping, I guess. Been doing that for years, I guess.
Well, the other side of that though is that, you know, It could be an expense to the general fund, but a revenue to the water fund. You know, if you're, that is one way to transfer money between the two funds. If you wanted more money in the water fund, that would be one way to do it. Now, I'm not advocating that. It's fine right now the way it is.
I think it's been open.
Yeah, no sense. This is something we have to.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do it. Okay, we have a private person who'd like to sell, this came up,
Okay, I guess one more thing, and I do want to point this out to everybody, though, if you can look at page 29. Because if you haven't got this question before, I'm sure you will. And that's, you know, so this, the water is used once, and then it goes down the sewer. Okay, I look at the big box, and we went through this before, but that's my calculation for what are the additional costs associated with creating that 1 million gallons of water. And that's why they're described as consumables, salt and chlorine and additional things that are needed to create this 1 million gallons. So just in rough terms, we pump 50 million gallons throughout the course of the year. And if you'd ask yourself, what does it cost for me what's the additional cost for me to create that 51st million gallons? Okay, and that's it. So it's roughly $500 in consumable items that goes into creating that extra 1 million gallons of water. And million is an important number there because over the course of a month, if it runs all the time, we'll be just underneath that.
So did you tell us one time that, I don't know if I remember this right, but the first, maybe it wasn't million, was it first million, you have these costs, your second million is much less?
You always look at incremental costs of producing anything. You know, it costs less to produce more as you get up. All that I'm saying is that, you know, when you look at this and say we're now pumping $51 million over the 51 million gallons over the course of the year instead of 50 million. Okay, what's the additional cost for that 51st million? And this would be my estimate. I think this is true. Roughly, you know, if the citizens come ask you about how much it costs for that water that we're using one time, during the course of a month, it'll be about $500. Yeah. Okay.
Done now? All right. The next item is the new bait shop is asked to put a vending machine down at the campground. Sell meals, baits, or whatever the kids buy for fishing. Ruth thinks it's a fine idea. She has people come all the time asking whether they buy bait from the campers.
Yeah, and I guess I look at this as a broader issue too, so that you can answer questions. General questions about private persons selling on public land. We have some regulations in place already, and they're on page 3. The one talks about Crescent Beach concessions, that people are permitted, but they first got to obtain permission from the city council, sign an agreement, and then pay a fee as determined by the council. You see that permission must be secured annually on or before May 1st, which of course didn't happen. But you can, if this is something that you'd like to proceed, you need to enter into an agreement with the vendor, and you can include then in this agreement whatever you think would be appropriate, including the appropriate rental fee, you know, how to handle utilities. In this case, if it's a vending machine, how you'd handle utilities. The other thing that I think would need to be included in there would be some sort of an insurance coverage that the vendor is responsible for insurance coverage.
So we charge these vendors $100 for a calendar year?
That's the other thing about transient merchants. Remember we made some changes to transient merchant code last year when we were going to have the snow cone trailer. And so we allowed this that basically said if you're going to sell food or concessions or whatnot, that's permitted, and it would cost $100 per year. For a transient merchant, they got to sell actually in those parking spaces that are north of the North Stone Pier. That's the designated area for it, unless the council would approve a different location.
So did I, might have spaced out for me, but did the fee used to be more than that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like for a week. It would end up being $100 for a week.
So that's when you made this adjustment to like $100 a week? Okay.
If, for the vending machine, I would look at that first one, the Crescent Beach Concessions. I think that would apply. It's not a transient merchant. The other one that I was talking about was some guy came, asked me questions about renting kayaks. The fella who was asking about renting kayaks, that would be a transient. You need to get a permit from us. And, I had that same discussion with him about insurance. And then he needed to, he was gonna go do some checking on insurance and have an banking back.
We also tell the
Sparky's, I think, sells more.
Nightcrawler, that's what I was told.
With the Canadian.
The Canadian?
Nation Nightcrawler?
Yeah, that's, yeah, you would say, eh?
Well, I think it'd be nice to have the concession, or the vending machine down there, and I think putting it under Crescent Beach Concession sounds like a reasonable thing to me.
So do you have to have a meeting for this, like cooler or whatever it is? Or Monday?
We would need to come up with what an agreement would be. So if you felt comfortable saying that, we would charge them $15 per month while the vending machine's operating, that's pretty cheap. You certainly could do that. But the other thing would be, we're gonna establish that as a meter site, and we need to get a meter.
Well, I think some, they need to charge something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's going to pay the utilities or insurance, whatever.
So, I didn't hear that quite right.
Do you want, would you charge flat fee, or would you put a meter?
I was thinking we put a meter in there.
Bill, what would, you could estimate pretty close, maybe, once you solve the unit, how much electricity it would take, what the actual cost would be? I mean, if you keep it a flat fee, you don't have to do anything extra, I think that would be the way to go, but, I'm not saying give it away, but you're pretty sharp on all that stuff,
So
so.
I've got a little plug-in, you plug into an outlet, you plug his machine into that, and you know exactly what he uses.
Well,
This is relatively high dollar item he's trying to do.
What'd you say, John?
It's a high dollar machine he's buying.
Yeah.
With the
But
way-
I can tell you, by doing that, I've got two on hand. Just plug them in the wall, he plugs that into there. He keeps track of the kilowatt
Is
per
that what
month.
he's gonna do, is plug it into the inside the?
Right by the pop machines on the east side of it.
Yeah.
That's where our Pepsi was used for that.
I think, service is another thing that brings somebody to our campground instead of the state campground, it's nothing big, but it's still something that, got the kids, and do
Some
something.
minutes.
Yeah, it's not what it is. So, I think that's pretty easy way.
And the flat rate would be, I'm not sure what the flat rate should be, but I think that would be pretty good.
Well, if this is all right with the council, I think what we would do is just seek to negotiate an agreement with them and bring an agreement to act as council.
Bring it back for approval. I agree.
So we have to make a motion on this, or just FYI?
If you can have a motion instructing me to negotiate an agreement.
Second?
I'll say.
Roll call.
Okay, Waltman. Priest.
Yes.
Muller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Okay.
You haven't had any interest in a transient merchant to be down by the splash pad or by the lake this year? Sure would be nice.
Just kayak.
He wouldn't compete with ours because his, for two people, ours is for one. That's what Bruce said. Hopefully you can get that lined up. Okay, ordinance 493, that's our third reading of the rural outline zoning.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Volkman,
Yes.
Mulder,
Yes.
Stankin,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Okay, 494 is also the third reading of the site plan.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second.
roll call.
Stankin,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Volkman,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Mulder.
Yes.
Okay, city administrative report.
Yeah, we said that we would discuss fireworks last year when we were implementing any proposed changes. So when we only tweaked our ordinance just a little bit, and basically it follows state code, other than specifically excluding parks and campgrounds from, you can't shoot them off there. So fireworks use, fireworks sales are allowed from May 20th to July 8th and December 10th to January 3rd. Fireworks use is allowed those same days during the hours of 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and it goes to 11 o'clock on July 4th and 12:30 on January 1st. Just interested in any feedback that anybody's ever gotten about that, and is this an issue, or are we pretty content with where we're at? I guess before I even say that, I talked with Royce about this, and he was pretty content.
I am too.
I haven't heard of any complaints.
No,
Leave it as is.
let her sit, stand as it is.
All right. Couple other things. The bar plans to have a bags tournament. Now, there'll be land bags at the bar on June 30th, and this would start at 2 o'clock. They're asking whether they could block off a street. And they would look at blocking off Vine Street from 5th going south, basically to the farmer's market area, for 10 or 12 sets of boards there. Is there any concern with it?
I think it would be.
You'll see this on the next agenda to formally close that street. You'll have a motion to close the street, but we're gonna tell them to proceed. And as I actually walk past their flyer that's already hanging up in the building that says they're having this bags tournament.
Yeah, brings people downtown.
That's right.
That's what we're trying to do.
You read in the packet there about, an idea has been raised about changing the one-way direction of Lakeshore Drive. You know, Lakeshore Drive there in Town Bay currently goes from north to south one way. You know, most of the permanent residents live more on the south part. But the other big thing is that north entrance, when especially somebody's heading east on 3rd Street, and they want to get into the north entrance there of Lakeshore Drive, and there's somebody coming up Lake Street. You know, there's a stop sign there, but there's always this little interaction between those two cars. I think it has some merit to look at, or at least discuss with the area. Now, having said that, I think there's one problem spot there. But
You know, Christy Swenson has her driveway go the wrong way, or her garage. She'd have to swing around. I asked her to think about it a while back, she hasn't said anything.
Is that about the only one that you think would be a problem?
Yeah, everybody else.
So the ones that are, you know, like the brick places and that you think they'll just come in from the other direction?
Yeah. Because the people on the south end are already coming in that way anyway.
Yeah,
They're not, it says do not enter, but they're going in anyway.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and they always did.
Yeah.
And it is hard to get across there because the people that are at the stop sign, they don't give you the right of way if you're wanting to go there. And it's hard to indicate that you are going there, you know.
It'd be safer coming out down instead of we're going in now.
So have we canvassed the neighbors?
no, I haven't done anything with it. Interested in your thoughts.
I think it would be a good idea, but I think maybe
Canvas
So-
neighbors first.
I think they need to have some
They need to
input.
have input. Yep.
Very good. The other thing that was brought up, and then, I don't know that they're requesting any action on this either, was the note out at Sunset Drive, the notion about making Sunset Drive either a limited parking area or a no parking area out there on Sunset Drive. And I tell you that Reggie Warbeck's the one who called me about that, and he was gonna be talking with a bunch of the neighbors. So, we'll hear whether that amounts to much anything or not. See if there's any interest out there.
That has a lot of merit to it, because I was going for a drive one evening, and there was a vehicle parked on one side, and I couldn't even get around,
Yeah.
you know, because it wasn't all the way over to the side that, they were talking to one of the neighbors, and I just had to wait until they moved. So, but, you know, again, canvass the neighbors and see what they're.
Well, like I say, Reggie was gonna talk with.
How much outside traffic comes through there, say,
Just
in the
very
parking lot?
little.
Well,
Other than guests, you know, and of course this comes up now that
a
it's
lot of
that it's
parking there
summertime.
during the
And,
summer.
yeah.
But every resident along there has driveways. You know, and-
There was a boat parked there over the weekend too for
Yeah.
quite a while.
You know,
Yeah, I mean,
it's a
and
narrow
you have to go-
street. Definitely has some merit, but again,
But,
the neighbors should have
you
a
know,
lot to say
the
about
funny
it.
thing about it is that street's wider now than it ever was.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
And my last issue was brought up, and I heard from several people about cleaning the beach and taking care of some goose issues.
Yes, don't look bad. Let's load up the geese.
On it before the weekend.
I find them a new home,
Before the
you
weekend.
know, in some place that don't have geese.
Okay.
They have water, so bring them to them.
The geese are a big problem, so we were talking with the
Don't trip.
camp staff today about being
Yeah,
much more diligent about
good.
handling that.
I just wanna go on record saying it needs to happen.
I just got one thing. It's,
Regularly,
Yeah,
and starting immediately.
right.
Sign, somebody thought we, food for thought, needed new street signs, a little more visible street signs.
I
I'm
agree
hearing
100%.
And,
Bigger
I
ones.
thought maybe it'd be a good project
The
for
one down
hometown
there
pride
on
or
Sixth and
community
Third is
focus.
turned around wrong.
Right. There's,
But there's quite a few of them that aren't very visible.
there's a lot
Well,
of them
You
that are
know,
very
you
visible.
really, you're thinking, okay.
You know,
If you
you go,
notice-
you go over to, I don't know how much they are, but you go over to Early and. they
Yeah,
do-
I was gonna say
do
Early's got
They just put
nice
them up
ones,
too.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know how much they cost, but
That,
that's one thing we really,
it's actually, I think a few communities in the county have done that, and they've been, I think, hometown
I
pride
think Shaler did
projects.
too, didn't he?
Shaler
Yeah,
did.
hometown
And,
pride is gonna.
And Sac County Endowment grant funded.
Oh, yeah. Well, that,
Yeah.
somebody just brought that up, and I just thought I'd bring it.
We
Maybe
need more
that.
visible stop signs right out here that people go through all the time.
You think?
Every time.
I think we could put one this big and by my end of my street and it wouldn't matter.
That probably wouldn't matter, but at least we,
I'll tell you what, somebody got her nailed the other day. She went right through that stop sign, Clayton, Clayton Betchler. Everything in his truck hit the front.
Oh, boy.
I'll tell you what, it was close. And we probably got, at least 25 or 30 a day
oh yeah.
that go through there. I always say slow and go, you don't need stop signs. That's what they do.
That's it.
We're gonna spray the lake is tomorrow supposedly, and, we're kinda waiting to cut the grass, cause we only have one truck, the other one's in the hospital yet.
You got it back today.
You got it back, okay, yeah, whatever truck the bill gives us, we'll start putting grass in it in a couple days.
I forgot, somebody mentioned to me also about that fence, and they thought, with all this goose doo-doo down around the lake, they wanted to open up that fence so they could, maybe like a 3 or 4 foot opening in there where the cars park instead of where the campers are, so they didn't have to walk through people's campground.
Oh, on
that fence.
Lake Street,
Yeah.
going out.
No, on the fence and coming off the sidewalk in back of them houses.
Oh, yeah,
Like by, well, kinda like by, back by.
Beckman, yeah, they can't get up there. We opened it up farther down, but he says they,
Yeah.
open up his place, we
Yeah.
can open that up.
And he said there's so much goose down there by the lake that they don't wanna go around.
Right.
It might be something to look at, to open that fence up, you know, just
Yep.
so they're lifting bikes and everything across that fence.
Bikes and strollers.
Yeah,
But we'll visit with Ruthie and
whatever.
Geiger.
What about the mosquitoes? I've been hearing a lot about the mosquitoes.
Oh,
I've
they're
been seeing
bad.
A lot of them too.
Yeah, they're out.
Are they spraying again?
They are spraying, and I guess I haven't heard from them.
I haven't either.
Yeah, we seen them, but they was just, really, whatever they used really pissed them off.
Okay.
They were really mean after that.
Usually it's a big deal when they come here, because
Yeah,
they
you
go
always
to
hear
the
that.
park and
Yeah,
everything, and I
yeah.
just haven't
But,
seen
you know,
them.
Lon always said you should do that, and then 3 days later hit them again, cause that really makes them mad when they hit them the first time. You know, but, I don't know about that, but, you know.
The psychology of a mosquito.
So, have you seen them?
No, I have not.
I have not
I just
either.
need to call the contractor
haven't
and
either.
Might
see.
wanna check them,
We're on board, because, you know, they've been here
Oh,
and
they
and
did,
we've
right.
re-signed up again and of course paid them.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
beautiful.
usually they're very visible.
Well, you can hear them.
Right.
Sounds like an airplane.
Nothing more? Motion to adjourn, second,
I'll say.
meeting adjourned.
Right.